Pleasure to welcome to the podcast. We got an all-American goalie, Jenika Cuocco. Jenika, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here. Well, I always start by asking the goalie or the guest for the story of when they first jumped into goalie. You remember that?
Yeah. So oddly enough, I started as a field player, but like never ever had the intention of ever playing goalie until I started playing. And I was like, there was already two goalies on the team. So I was like, I'm never really going to get my chance. And then the other goalie decided to switch teams and there was an opening. And I was like telling my mom, I'm like, I'm so excited. Like, let's do this. Like, I feel like I could really be great at this. And then my mom sent the email. And ever since then, I just been playing goalie.
Why did you feel like you could be great at goalie?
Okay, well, it's a little different because I was definitely a little chunkier when I was younger. And I was like, I don't know if this running thing's really for me on the field. And I was like, I think my skills would be better fit for a goalie, and it just worked out.
So it was the running, because I have this theory that a lot of you only become a goalie for like one of like a very few select reasons. And
Yeah.
one of them is that you don't like the running. And if I'm being honest, Jenika, that was me. Like the running
Yeah,
sucked.
it definitely does. And, I thought like, oh, like that'll get me out of all the running. It definitely did not, but it's not as much.
Right. It doesn't get you out of all the running, but it gets you out of a lot, because there's certainly a lot of drills where like the field players are running up and down the field, and you as the goalie are like just being a goalie in that drill. And you're like, this is nice.
I'm definitely like, oh, wow, I'm grateful for this.
Yeah. Well, very cool. So you switched to goalie, and then is it like were you great at it? Did you have success right out of the chute?
Yeah, it kind of just came natural for me. Like I never had to like really figure out like where my form was. Like it just came natural. And then of course, like with more work with my goalie coach and watching more of like goalie wise, like I picked up on things, but it did definitely come naturally to me.
Yeah. And how did you learn? I'm always curious about the journey there, because I mean, you grew up in Long Island, right? On Long Island. And so kind of a hotbed. I guess there's a lot of folks who know what they're doing, but I'm curious like how you went about learning.
So there were a couple goalies like ahead of me, like for varsity, that ended up playing in college. And I think just really like not training with them, but just watching them and always like almost being under them and literally just like picking up on everything they did. Like I would just write notes and I would just watch them constantly, and just try to like mimic. And then it all came together once I went into net.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's how I learned too, because
Mm-hmm.
I played in 1999, so like this is before any like the internet stuff was going on, and I just
Mm-hmm.
watched the goalie in front of me, right, and sort of mimicked what he did.
Yeah.
His style was my style, and
Yeah.
now there's just so much resources available that you can really like, even if you live somewhere else, you can kind of I can watch Jenika play on ESPN, right? So it's
Yeah.
kind of cool. But you mentioned varsity, so that's high school, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. So at
Mm-hmm.
what age did you start playing goalie?
So I started playing lacrosse in third, and then I guess I kind of at the end, like summer going into fourth grade,
Okay,
that's when I started playing like goalie.
gotcha. And how would you describe like your style now? I mean, I've watched you play Drexel games. Very athletic
Hmm.
goalie, which is awesome. Like those are my favorite types. But how would you
Yeah.
describe like how you play?
I feel like I play like on a flatter kind of arc. I was always like the shorter goalie, so I never really came all the way out on like like in close shots. Like they would just get dumped over my head. So I think like that just was always my stance. Like my stance was always just to be tall and look tall. So once I grew finally, which was like I think it was like my junior year of high school. Like I just stayed with my like tall stance, and that's been working for me. And then
Mm.
also, I don't really rely too much on my stick. Like I am really always on the ground, and I like just rely on getting my body behind the ball. And like I feel that I step at a 45, just to get up and out at the ball. Just to make sure like if the rebound does come out, I'm in front of it and it's not going anywhere behind me.
Yeah. When you talk about getting your body behind the ball, like especially on those low shots, like a lot of, some people call that flopping, right? Like just like going down and getting
Mm-hmm.
anything you can behind
Yeah.
it. What do you say to a young goalie who like watches you play and they're like, oh, I want to do that?
I think it definitely was a trial and error. Like I did flop at the beginning and those goals would sneak by and I just was like, what the heck? Like this isn't working for me. But I think it's a mix of getting your stick there as well and just not forgetting that that is also a very useful tool in making that save. So I think it's your body has to be cohesive. Like everything has to move at once to the ball and just like making sure that your movement is effective and not just throwing yourself on the ground.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's yeah. A lot of goalies ask me like, how do I do that? And I typically say like, because I learned to make low saves on my like staying on my feet, and I typically say like
Mm-hmm.
start there because I think it's a little bit easier. Like going to the ground, certainly more of an advanced move, I think. And so like you got to kind of
Yeah,
build up.
I wasn't always like that. I did
Yeah.
use my stick. And then I had a couple lessons with Lauren Daly. She played at BC. And she definitely played the style more that I play now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I really picked up on those techniques of getting to my whole body to the ground. And I found that that worked better for me than just relying on my stick.
Awesome. So Lauren Daly's a goalie you learned from. Who are some other goalies that, you know, as you're growing up, you're watching play and kind of stealing little moves from their game?
Um, Definitely Caylee Waters was like the first
Yeah.
goalie like I ever really watched, especially on like Team USA. Um, and I think that we have a similar playing style as well as like Taylor Moreno. She likes to stay a little taller up, and she's not afraid to get down on the ground and make those saves. So I think that's very similar in our playing styles as well.
Yeah. Yeah, Kaylee's awesome.
Hmm.
I've had her on the podcast and she's presented at some of the events and yeah, she's just all about lacrosse and lacrosse goalies and pumping up the position. So she's great
Yeah,
as is Taylor as well. So good
and
picks.
she's
Good picks right
they're both
there.
super athletic as well. They're both super athletic as well. So that
Yeah.
was always like they contribute more than just making saves. Like they're on the clear, they're pushing fast breaks. So it's like that's always what I wanted to be.
Love it. And I know Taylor is, I don't know about Kate, both Long Island girls. I know Taylor's from Long Island.
I'm not really too sure. I don't think Caylee Waters is, but I definitely know that Taylor Moreno is.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll have to look it up. All right. Your favorite part about being a lacrosse goalie, Jenika?
I think I would say just like the satisfaction of like making the save. Like, you know, when you're just like having a good game and you feel hot and you feel like you can like literally save anything, like that is just like one of the best feelings. Like your adrenaline's high, like you feel like you're unstoppable. Like that is definitely like the best. And then like after the game, just knowing that you like absolutely owned every shot and like praises after, like that's definitely the best part.
Yeah, I do know that feeling.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I was not a D1 All-American, so maybe I don't know it as well as you, but I've certainly had games like that where you know, you're just seeing those beach balls, right? And you're just so locked in and you're
Hmm.
just so present and just having fun. And then at the end of the game, I don't know how it was for you. Like at the end of the game, they'd be like, man, you played so well. And it was kind of like, oh yeah, I guess I did. Kind of like looking back on it, but you're not even thinking about it in the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely like the best part, I feel like. Just like knowing that you played good, but then also being told like that someone else recognized it. That's also really helpful.
Yeah. And then on the flip end, what's your least favorite part about being a goalie?
There's not much, but it's definitely like the mental aspect of the position.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of goalies will like resonate with that. Sometimes a position does make you feel kind of alone, or just like you have like all the pressures in the world like on your back or like on your shoulders. Like you just feel like no matter if it's a loss, like you just feel like it's on you, or like you just think immediately like what you could have done better. Um, and I just that over the years, like I've learned techniques of like what works for me and like getting over that. But I think that's definitely like the hardest part of the position.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Like there's a lot of we have the spotlight on us, right? And so there's a lot of pressure. And so and for many goalies who are not accustomed to that pressure, it can be very, very difficult. And you give up a goal and you feel like you're letting the team down. I would love to hear the techniques that did work for you for managing that, because I know, like you said, a lot of goalies have gone through that, and I'm sure, you know, by hearing what worked for you to help you through that situation might work for them.
I think it didn't come very easily, but with a lot of work, it did help to know that there's other players on the field, has to get through with those other players to get to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just all on you. I mean, the offense is supposed to score. I mean, the odds are against you. And I think just knowing that if you can just do your best, and any save really is doing more than what anyone really is expecting you to make the
Mm-hmm.
save or do. So I think just remembering those things, and then also having like a short-term memory, and just like thinking like I will give myself time, like from when the ball goes in and when I give the ball to the ref, and like when by the time the ball gets like the 50, I'm thinking about what I did wrong, what I could have done better, and then by the time it's there, I'm just like, okay, next play, next shot, next save, I got it. And
Yeah.
that seems to help.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, especially in the women's game, right? Because the shots that you guys see are just like right on top of you. I mean, there's, you know, compared to the men's game, and many
Yeah.
times it's so much about like, you know, being a great goalie, so much about just making like one or two really key pivotal saves.
Hmm.
You look at the national championship game, like Malala Liberty had 3 saves, 3, right?
Yeah.
And yet you still like, she played great because like the saves were like when
Hmm.
the game was 0-0, and they were really amazing saves. And so, you know, it just goes to show like you can't always look at that like final save percentage or final number of goals given up and judge your performance simply based
Right.
on that. All right, cool. Well, I like that. Thank you for sharing that. Because yeah, you're right. It's not easy to do. And I'm sure it's like you don't just hear that one phrase or one thing we just talked about and be like, cool, got it now. It's something that like you constantly got to work on, right?
Yeah. Definitely did take me a while to finally realize that it's not all on me.
Yeah. Do you
And
feel like
that
you got it now, or is it still one of those things that like you're working on?
definitely some stuff I'm still working with. I think it's easier said than done. Like I would love to just go in the game and not be hard on myself and not feel like I'm letting down my team or in some way or form, by not making a save. But I think just having those concrete things that I know works and relying back on them really helps when like things are tough and like things aren't always going our way. I think that's always helpful for me.
Yeah. And so you mentioned sort of a little bit of a routine that you go through when you give up a goal. Talk to me about that. So ball goes over your shoulders. You know, what's your routine?
I think just like immediately like getting up and then getting the ball out. I don't really think that like getting upset in that moment is really like too helpful to your teammates, to yourself. Just like immediately getting the ball out, toss the ball, go in our huddle, like our defensive huddle, say what I think could have happened. I always do take that on me. I'm like, that's my fault. Like, let's do better. I definitely don't believe in like pointing fingers at my defenders. I don't think that's helpful to
Right.
anybody. Especially like if I do make a mistake, like I don't want that being pointed at me either. And I already know the mistake, and most times they do too. So there's no really point in getting down on them. And then we break out the huddle, ball gets the 50, and I'm like, okay, it happens. The goal is going to go in. Can't do anything about it now. Just all I can do is focus on the next play.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Um, Talk to me a little bit about your recruiting experience. I'd love to hear that. A lot of young goalies, you know, want to play Division I lacrosse, which is where you're at now. I'd love to hear a little bit about your recruiting story, if you could share that.
So September 1st came around, and I had a couple of schools that I've been like visiting, like through their camps, and had a real like interest in them. So I knew that hopefully, September 1st that I'd get an email from them. And I did with a couple of them, and I had a good amount of schools, some that I didn't even know about, Drexel being one of them. And my mom was huge on you have to visit every school, no matter if you know about them, if you have an interest in them, you have to visit every school.
Mm.
And she did, and I did. And I think it was really useful because even if I didn't have interest in the school necessarily, I figured out what I wanted in that next school that I visited, or in what my dream school. I
Right.
figured out what I did like and what I didn't like, and how I would like the team to be, and what school like setting was best for me, or if the classroom was too big. So really just making sure I see every school, that was really helpful. As soon as I got to Drexel, I realized that like that was where I wanted to be. The team was such a family environment, and that was exactly what I was looking for. All the girls just wanted the best for each other, and it wasn't really like that catty, like not happy, fake with each other. That was just like so big on what I was looking for. Like basically everyone had a role on the team, and by being able to see every school, that's when I knew when I got to Drexel, like that's what I wanted.
Interesting. Regarding that teamwork that you just mentioned, how did you know that? Is there a story that comes to mind, or a specific moment where like you realized, oh, like this is how this is? Or I'm curious how you discern that, like from your visit.
Um, I've just always been on a team where we always wanted the best for each other. So I think that was just like always what I was looking for when I was in my recruiting process.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think it was anything like an experience wise. I just felt like that would be best suited for me.
Yeah.
Um, I just feel like I do best in an environment where, you can push each other, like a healthy competition. But at the end of the day, we're family.
Yeah. And you saw that amongst the girls and maybe not so much on the other visits with other teams.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you could definitely. There was a true tell once I got to Drexel, how much they all really cared for each other.
Interesting. What advice would you give the younger self if you had to go through it all again?
Uh, Enjoy every moment. It does feel stressful in the moment, um, but looking back at it now, like I wish I would have had more fun and not put so much pressure on. Oh my God, this is a school. Like, what if I make the wrong decision? Because you'll
Yeah.
know at the end of the day, you will know once you get to that school that you truly do love, that it's the right choice for you.
Yeah. And it's not, I mean, with the transfer situation, it's not like the end of the world too. If you make the wrong decision, right? I
No,
mean, like a
not at
lot, a
all.
lot of people have transferred into much better situations, and we've talked about it a lot on the podcast. So yeah, great, great. And so enjoy it, right? Have fun with it, and don't get too stressed out. It's
Yeah,
great tips.
yeah. Enjoy the moment because it really is an exciting moment.
Yeah. You said something that was I want to understand. So you had been going to sort of recruiting camps, right? Not necessarily like
Yeah,
tied to a school. And like then a Drexel coach saw you at one of those recruiting camps, and you hadn't even like contacted the coaches previously. They reached out to you. Is that right?
no. Yeah, so that summer going into September 1st, I played with Yellow Jackets, so I did a lot of travel tournaments. But
Mm.
when I wasn't at those tournaments, I was going to camps and where other coaches would be. And they did happen to see me at one of my summer tournaments. And I had no clue that
Yeah.
Drexel even existed. But now I'm glad that I did find out. But yeah, I had no clue. I had no clue that this place even existed.
Yeah. Um, that's awesome. So you get to Drexel. How does your goalie game then evolve or change, if at all?
um, so I came in my freshman year with Zoe Bennett. She ended up taking her fifth year and returning. So that was something that I've spoken about with the previous coach before I got there, but that wasn't something that was like planned, like that I definitely knew. But once I got there, I did end up redshirting. And at first, it was unexpected. Like that was not what I saw or I had in store for myself, redshirting my freshman year. But now looking back at it, like that was definitely one of the best decisions I've ever made. Like Zoe Bennett is great. And I learned so much from her. And, redshirting let me adjust to the game, and I think
Yeah.
allowed me to prepare and always on and off the field to be able to start my sophomore year.
Yeah. What are some things in particular that you learned from Zoe?
Um, So she also like went through the same experience with her mental aspect or mental side of the game. And she was like my biggest supporter with just short-term memory and like forgetting about the next shot and like always supporting me when I felt like I wasn't doing my best. And, she would just be like, "You're doing great. Like, keep going."
Yeah.
But then also, like, her communication with the team was also great. Like, she was a very vocal goalie, constantly talking. The defense was responding well as always as well. So I think those are things I picked up on. And then also, she was an athletic goalie. She'd come out during the clear and help with that. So that was just another thing that I knew I wanted to put into my game.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. I mean, none of that involves like making saves, which I'm sure you probably learned a lot from her, just what, in terms of the technical aspects of how
Yeah.
she played, but like all those other things you pick up from, the communication and the leadership and the what to
Yeah,
say to somebody, right?
because I mean, it's not always just about the save; it's the things that come before the save. And I think with communication to your defense, I mean, that limits the shots that are happening, so which makes your
Right.
job even easier.
Right. Yeah. And then I think I read, as a freshman or redshirt freshman, you jumped in the scout team and played left-handed.
Yeah. So it was for our CAA tournament. We were playing Towson, and they had a lefty goalie at the time, and I was a redshirt, so I just knew my job as on the scout team was to just best prepare my team as much as I could. And yeah, I had to go lefty. It was definitely a different experience than what I'm used to. But
Yeah.
it was a good change of pace. I like the challenge. And I at that time, our AD was at practice, and he told my coach, she's really off position, and she was like, "Nope, she's playing lefty right now. That's not her hand that she plays
Yeah.
in." And he
Yeah.
goes, "Oh,
Yeah.
well then she's in the right position then." So so it was something new, and I didn't mind it. I knew that my job was to just best prepare my team.
Yeah. And I mean, do you feel like it helped your game or no?
Um,
When you switch back, I mean.
I no,
No,
not
no.
really.
All
I
right.
think I didn't see anything. I mean, I played exactly the same. I felt even maybe I did when I was in my left hand use my body even more. So I
Right.
guess just being aggressive towards the ball, I would say
Yeah.
that maybe helped.
It's interesting because like I don't know if you played like baseball or softball at all growing up, but like you put your glove as a righty on your left hand, right? And like
Hmm.
that's sort of the natural way to like
Yeah.
and it's kind of when you think about making a save, it's kind of like having a glove on your hand because your top hand goes straight to the ball and you catch it.
Yep.
And so I'm always curious about when people switch over to lefty, like how they do. But all right, righty,
It was kind of
righty,
weird
righty is for you.
because yeah, it was kind of weird because my right hand's now under my left, so my right hand was kind of driving
Yeah.
to the ball
Right.
more than my left, so it was a little different.
Yeah. Um, awesome. So then you take over the starting role last year, this 2023 season. So I guess you're then like your first year. I don't know. You're a redshirt freshman or a redshirt sophomore, I guess they would say. And
Hmm.
boom, All-American season right out of the gate. Talk to me a little bit about this season, if you could.
Um, it was surreal. I mean, that was never what I thought how my performance would be.
Yeah.
I didn't really have too much like I know I have a high standard for myself, but I didn't have any expectations on getting awards or anything like that. Yeah, so it was kind of just a crazy experience when everything was happening. It, yeah, it was unreal. I couldn't believe it. I still don't believe it, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy.
Well, congrats on that. That's a really amazing accomplishment. I mean, not many goalies earn All-American honors their first year, their freshman year. So that's a great
Yeah,
accomplishment. Congrats.
thank you.
Seasons are always sort of typically kind of like can have like peaks and valleys, right? Like I know when I played, you'd be on a 3-game run and then, 2-game slope, 2-game like downswing. And did that happen this season? And like specifically when you go on that downswing, like how do you bring the girls and yourself back up?
Yeah, definitely. You know, my coaches are really big on like the game is just a, a run of highs and lows. And that there's always time on the clock. So definitely just don't get too hard on yourself if things aren't going your way in the beginning. That's definitely helped me just realizing that I can change how I am playing just by my mindset. Especially if like it's all not coming together. My mind's in the right place, but I'm not making the saves that I'm supposed to. It's always good to have those something to fall back on. But then also like when things aren't going right, I think relying on your teammates to help you get to that place is really important.
Right.
But I think just controlling the controllables are super important, especially like if if your defense is just breaking down, just focusing on one thing to change and then just focusing on that throughout the game, and everything will come together eventually.
Yeah. I've had a lot of talked to a lot of sports psychologists on this show, and like it always goes back to that control the controllables, right? Like you can't
Mm-hmm.
really control whether or not you make the save, right? Because you can't control if the where the shots are going to come from, and you know the level of shots that you're going to see. But you can certainly control your attitude. You can certainly control your effort, right? You can certainly control a lot of things that have to do with like you know your mental game. And so like yeah, focusing on those is very key. That's like the key to being mentally tough, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
agreed.
yeah, you talk a lot about mindset and mindset training. Do you guys have like a sports psychologist that you work with at Drexel?
Yeah, we did have a sports psychologist that we worked through, like we worked with as a team, but I also saw her separately, just to try and advance my game, just a little more, maybe, um, just to have a fallback if I'm not, you know, performing the way I think I should. Those were things that I could um, go back to,
Yeah.
and just try and change how I am playing.
Yeah, what were you know control the controllables is probably one, but what were there some other lessons that he or she taught you?
Um, it was just like positive reinforcement, like positive
Mm,
talk.
yeah,
Um,
that's huge.
you know, I did have like there'd be times where I like doubted myself, but she
Mm-hmm.
would say, you know, you got here for a reason. You know, you didn't just get here for luck. You are good. You can perform at this level. And I think just reminding myself that that was helpful. And, you know, that was another tip that, you know, helped me as well as like, also like grounding and like staying in the moment. That also helped. You know, I tend to like start thinking of other things like, oh no, what if I don't make this save? Oh no, what if I don't make this other save? You know, just staying present and just one shot at a time, one save at a time.
Yeah. Let's talk about that one real quick because that happens to a lot of goalies. Some goalies call it, there's different names for it that some goalies use. A lot of goalies call it like getting into my own head, right? But it
Hmm.
is those exact thoughts that you just brought up. It's like, oh man,
Yeah.
what if I do this? What if I do that? Do you have a like when you start to notice yourself doing that? Is there some sort of like way you get yourself out of it, or is it just like, all right, come on, snap out of it, be present? Is it just kind of saying that to yourself?
I think it's a little bit of both, you know. I do like a little shake out. You can tell when I start to
Yeah,
shake, like I'm just trying
I
to
like
get
it.
like the jitters out. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
just trying to get the jitters out. And then, you know, when you do, sorry about that. Um, when you do start to like think of yourself like getting crazy, um, for me, what works best is like realizing that the odds are against me again. And I think that's super helpful. Um, yeah, I think just going back to, you know, grounding definitely works.
yeah. Love it. And then the other one you mentioned, super important, is positive talk. Positive talk. That's such an important one because it's so easy as a lacrosse goalie to say like, "Oh man, I'm not good. Oh man, I can't say bounce shot. Oh, I can't."
Hmm.
Right? And then you start getting this negative talk track, and it like really you're really feeding your mind that bad information, that garbage,
Hmm.
right? And so you got to
Yeah,
feed your mind this positivity, even like if it's not true. Like I would even be like, I would
yeah,
start to build myself up to be like this goalie with just this irrational confidence. Like it came from nowhere. I didn't
yeah,
do anything to deserve it. And yet I feel like when I go out there that I could save anything. And that's really, you know, what positive talk does, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a mix of like fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
But then also like changing I can't to I can and I will. I think those are definitely helpful because, you know, subconsciously, if you keep telling yourself, I can't do this, I can't do that, you're never going to be able to really do it.
Right.
And I think by just changing how you talk to yourself definitely helps you just be a better player all around.
Yeah. Do you have any specific like mantras that you say to yourself?
Um, I think I have a couple. It's like, I can do this. I will make this save. I am good. I am good enough to be here. I think reminding myself that throughout the games is definitely helpful because, you know, when you do get scored on a couple times, you start to waver in your mindset.
Yeah.
But just reminding yourself that you're here for a reason is really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Yeah, that's real for anybody that's made any sort of team, right? If you made the high school team and you're the starter, you're there for a reason, right? You're there for a reason.
Yeah.
And no one else can be, even if you're the only goalie on the team, right? By you playing goalie, you give your team the best opportunity to win, not anybody else, right? So you're there for a reason. All right. I love that. All right, cool. What about training? What does your guys' practices look like? What kind of drills do you like to do? What do you think really made you a great goalie?
I think consistency definitely has made me a better goalie. Right now, I work out about 4 to 5 days a week, just working through our summer packet. And then I'll train weekly with like my goalie trainer, where we'll do footwork, hand-eye coordination. We'll work with like the field stick or the little stick, or he'll bring out the tennis racket. I think just seeing live shots is really helpful. Yeah, and then just like being repetitive and making sure that what you're doing is helping you to improve.
Yeah, right. High quality reps, what it's all about. It's what it's all about, I think. I think a lot of goalies email me looking for like new drills. And I think at the end of the day, I don't know, what maybe like 90% of them need is just to get out there and see like a lot of shots.
Yeah,
High
agreed.
quality shots, right? Controlled shots and just reps. So yeah. I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah, I feel like what most goalies do though is always use just lacrosse balls, but like I find that when I use tennis balls, it helps me even more. I think using tennis balls because it's a different kind of bounce, it's a different kind of speed. I think that helps my game a lot.
Using the tennis balls. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. 100%. Or one of these, this is actually not a lacrosse ball. It's like a squishy, it's like Champion makes it. It's like a soft lacrosse ball. So it's kind of looks like a lacrosse ball, but you can like push into it. So yeah, I mean, just, not having, there's no reason to use lacrosse balls if you're just taking like shots in a training session.
No.
Because you take one off the knee or the thigh or the shin or the shoulder. Everyone's got their least favorite spot to get nailed. And it's just like, this sucks. I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Cool. And then in the gym, what kind of, is it weightlifting? Is it like more?
Yeah.
What kind of stuff
It's a mix of both. We do bench, we use dumbbells, do some deadlifts, chin ups. You know, I feel like it's definitely just a full body, not just focusing on just one part of your body.
Yeah. And I think I read you're big into cardio, which kind of confuses me now that you said that you don't like to run.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it's a different kind of running.
Okay.
There's being in shape, and then for me, there's being in goalie shape. It's not necessarily me being able to run a full field length. It's me being able to talk and move and being able to chase after a ball. If the ball goes wide, try to get the ball back for my team. But then also, if I don't get the ball, having to be able to run back from the end line and reset for the next save and be able to make that save. I think it's just like, just a lot sometimes. Like, I'll still be definitely out of breath, but I think just training like that helps me in games.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, you don't have to be in the best shape, but yeah, I mean, you got to be able to sprint, do a couple sprints, and then still be able to keep it together. And I noticed that I had one game where I was playing really well, and then it was like two straight. There was like back-to-back plays. I tried to chase one out, right, and it was like two sprints. I got super tired, and then I gave up a goal. And what happened was I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't recover mentally because I was physically tired. My
Yep.
mental game left me, right? So like
Yeah.
normally I'd be able to shake that off. And because I was physically tired, I lost it mentally. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's all related. And so yeah, I'm
Yes.
goalies. We got to be the best athletes out there, right?
Yeah. Agreed.
All right. All right. Cool. Well, Jenika, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been tons of fun. What about this? If I had to make a Jenika save edit from one of the games this past season, what would be your pick? What's the best game you think you had?
Best game I think I had, save percentage wise and just like feeling wise,
Mm-hmm.
was definitely my San Diego State game. I don't know how I managed to do that, but I ended up having my highest save uh, record and percentage throughout the whole season. And oddly enough, it was after they scored 3 on us back to back and we were down 3. So, yeah, it was definitely a surreal experience. And my defense played great and they helped me so much. And we ended up holding them scoreless for 55 minutes after that.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right, listen. So talk to me about that because you give up 3 or 4 goals in a row, and for a lot of goalies that can be like, oh man, wheels are coming off the wagon, right? Like here we go.
Yeah.
And yet you recover and 17 saves on 5 goals against. That's insane. How did
Mm-hmm.
you recover?
So after the 3 was scored, my coach called a timeout. And in
Yeah.
that timeout, I had time to, think about what I was doing wrong. But then I also had time to go over to my defensive coach, and then also my assistant coach who works with me, just asking, like, what am I doing wrong? Like,
Mm.
am I overstepping? Am I not being patient enough? And then sometimes, she'll just tell me, like, these are just good shots. But, even she was like, you're just a little behind. That's all. Like you just need to be a little bit more aggressive. And I was like, okay, done. Like that's what I'll do. And then then I went back to my defense and I was like, you know what? Like we're letting them run us instead of us dictate what we want them to do.
Mm.
And as soon as that happened, we got back on the field, step foot, and we started playing our defense, our true defense, which was, having each other's back, communicating to each other, and forcing the shots that we want to see and that I want to see. So I think just having a little time to yourself and just to reflect on what went wrong for a second, and then being ready to just, forget all about that and just have like a new game, fresh start. That was super helpful with us.
That's so interesting. So interesting. Yeah, I know a lot of goalies would not react well to like, what am I doing right? Like trying to get that in-game coaching,
Mm-hmm.
which just goes to show you like every single goalie is different, right? Some goalies like want to hear that
Yeah.
and they want to know what's going on, like yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a mix because I definitely sometimes when I'm already down on myself, I don't need a
Right.
coach, already telling me that I'm missing this, missing that.
Right.
I need
Step
like
to the ball.
support
You're
and to
like,
be
yeah, I
lifted.
know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. So I think
Right.
just having a coach that can adapt to you and know what you need best is super helpful to your game.
Yeah. When I've coached goalies like from the sideline, like my strategy has typically been like you're sort of a cheerleader and like a rah-rah guy
Mm-hmm.
during the game. And I am taking notes about like, the technical
Right.
things that they're doing wrong. But typically I would say for most goalies, like giving them that level of feedback in the game, it's just like way too much. And then they start
No,
thinking
yeah.
about it. But
Yeah,
hey,
you
whatever
play your
works.
best when you don't think. Yeah, you play your best when you
Totally.
don't think.
Totally. All right, we'll have to do a save edit of that game. The other goalie had 19 saves. This is crazy. That's like
Yeah.
a goalie battle right
Yeah.
there, huh?
She's a great goalie. She
Yeah.
really is. She was eating everyone up.
Yeah. All right. Wow. What a goalie battle. Okay. Um, awesome. So what do you got in terms of goals for next season?
I definitely don't think it has. I wouldn't have any goals set on like where I would hope my performance takes me in awards wise.
Yeah.
I think just staying true to myself, and just playing the player I have been, and just realizing that I can always improve. I think goals for next year is just coming in as a leader again. You know, uh, I said this in one of my meetings, but I can always improve on things. So I feel like goal wise, I'd love to communicate even more. I think that would be
Mm.
super helpful for my defense. And then, I can always work on my mental aspect. I think that always can be improved. And then lastly, I do have a tendency to, when I'm like turning, I drop my hands. So I think that's super important for me to work on
Yeah.
in this upcoming season, and just getting, my mind, my body right. And, hopefully we have another great season.
Yeah. Well, I hope that too. I hope that too. I want to talk about your leadership style a little bit, because I think I read somewhere that like you're sort of a shy, reserved person, right? And not sort of the
Yeah.
loud, boisterous goalie. But talk to me about how, you can be that way and then also be a leader.
Yeah. So I'm definitely like not the person, I mean, I can be, but it's just not who I really am to, be super vocal off the field. I'm really close with all my teammates. That has nothing to do with just like how much I talk, though.
Right.
I am more of a player that would rather lead by example on the field, and put all of my heart into them and my performance, and let that speak for itself. I think just by working hard, they'll seem to just respect you a little more, your drive for the team and your play. I think that's a super helpful way to get them to respect you and to show that you're a leader on the field.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. I think you can be a leader both ways, right? Like you can be that
Mm-hmm.
shy, reserved person. And in many ways, when you are that type, like when you do actually speak up and say something, it carries a lot more weight, because they're like, oh,
Yes.
wait a minute, like Jenika's like saying something, like
Yeah.
we need to pay attention, as opposed to someone who's
Yeah.
always
Definitely.
like always talking and always doing that. You might drown that person out
Mm-hmm.
from time to time.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, you agree with that.
Yeah. Definitely. I,
All
I
right.
mean, I that speaks for itself, I think.
All right. Um, cool. What about the stick setup? What stick do you use?
I'm using the Warrior Nemesis 3 head with an ECD shaft, and my makeshift tape that's turning brown and black. I just keep wrapping it on top of each other. But yeah, with all my sweat and everything, but yeah, where my hands are supposed to be.
Okay, so you got a piece of tape at the top, and then a piece of tape
Mm-hmm.
where
On
your
my
bottom
butt.
hand goes, or on
Yep.
the butt
And then I
end.
also have I
Yeah,
have both. So I have it on the top where just to have extra grip around where my thumb would be around the head, and
yeah,
then on the middle. Yep, on the
and
middle. Where,
and like right here on the shaft where your bottom hand goes. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And do you
Yep.
like when you set up? I don't have an ME3 here. I have one in. I don't have it here. Oh wait, no, that's QS. Okay. Do you set up like with the top hand, like sort of gripping the plastic, or are you kind of like touching the plastic?
No, I'm gripping the plastic. I
Gripping.
feel like I
Okay.
have more. Yeah, I feel like I have more durability, if that makes sense. Like I feel like if I were to hold it a little lower, the head would turn on a shot, or
Right.
I just feel like I have better grip on the plastic.
That's what a lot of people say who use that.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, I learned on the Eclipse, on the original Eclipse, which has like such a
Mm-hmm.
wide throat right here. That's like if you're gripping it, it's like way out here. So I play right here personally. But
Right.
now these
Yeah.
this is an impact head. They're just so nice. Like they're just so grippable and they feel really cool. So yeah.
Yeah, they look nice.
Yeah. And do you string up your own heads, or does someone else do that?
No, so my goalie trainer for the past 6 or 7 years, I've just always had him string my stick. So even when I'm at school, I'll send my head back with my mom, and he'll string it, and then
Yeah.
she'll bring it back up for
Nice.
me.
Nice.
Yeah, he just knows what I like, and I don't have to explain it. He just does it the way I like it, and it works perfect for me.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple pics. Looks like he puts a pretty good sized bag in there, huh? It's pretty deep.
Yeah, I I tend to punch with my hands, so if it's not deep, the ball will just rebound immediately.
Yeah,
Just to limit rebounds. I like to have a deeper pocket to play with as well.
I like it. I like it. The only drawback of that is it can sometimes be trickier to throw, yeah?
Yes, sometimes it'll bag out the more I use my stick.
Yeah.
It'll tend to bag out, but I normally just take in the bottom of it. I'll just restring it and pull it in, so it
Yeah.
makes it a little more shallow.
Love it. All right. Jenika, I'm starting a campaign to allow women's lacrosse goalies to score goals. Are you in?
Yeah, I'm in. That would be awesome. I can't see anyone saying no to that.
Yeah, except the rules committee. Who
Well,
for some
yeah,
reason,
but I
yeah,
don't
I don't
think any
know.
goalie would agree.
Yeah, I think all the goalies are going to agree.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't feel like the pocket of a goalie's stick gives you that much of an unfair advantage because it's just so like it's so heavy,
No.
right? It's so big that yeah,
It's so heavy, but even if we were to get checked, the ball still comes out when we do get checked.
exactly. All right.
So
Good points. All good points to submit to the committee. All right, Jenika, like I said, good luck in the upcoming season. If you had to leave the goalies out there with a final piece of advice, what would that be?
I would just say just have fun. That is like the most important piece to having like playing lacrosse. I think just enjoying every practice, every game, every even team dinner. That is really just enjoy the little things in the sport and don't worry too much about the big things.
Jenika, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.